Good morning, everybody. We are now today on Som Asara B'Tevet. And it's very interesting, like a few words on Asara B'Tevet. What started? It's the siege on Yerushalayim. Nebuchadnezzar came on Yerushalayim and surrounded it. And that's what happened. It's only the beginning. And this fast is more important than all the fast. Why? It's not so important. If Asara B'Tevet falls on Shabbos, we'll fast on Shabbos. It doesn't happen. Like, it's so important. Why? Because everything starts from a point. And if you stop it at that point, at the beginning, it will not go on. And this is a big lesson for us. And this is the opportunity to change things. We are in the Galut for many, many, many years. And this brings us to our Parsha. Vayechi Yaakov, there are a lot of interesting points in our Parsha. And one of them is the separation between the 17 years. Vayechi Yaakov b'Eretz Yisrael 17 shana. He lived in Egypt for 17 years. Vayehi Yamei Yaakov, and how long were his days? Shnei chayav 7 shanim ve'arba'im, 147 years. So why the Torah separates those 17 years? There are a lot of explanation, but I want to go to one that is connection to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi is the one who collected all the Mishnah, the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah, and wrote it, the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. And he wrote, he was sitting in Tzipori, Yaakov b'Eretz 17 shana. Yaakov lived in Egypt for 17 years. Yehuda, and Yehuda, chai b'Tzipori 17 shana, 17 years. 17 in Gematria, 17 is Tov, good. And what was so good in this? And what's the connection between Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi and Yaakov with those 17 years? Because one of the interesting points is that if you remember, it's like they say that in those 17 years it was shalva, it was quiet, it was the best years. But when we remember that Vayeshev Yaakov, when he wanted to sit down, and Kafatz Lav Yosef, the whole thing with Joseph started. So what is the difference? That he sits here in Eretz Mitzrayim, Vayechi Yaakov, here in Egypt. What did he do in those 17 years? He gave Am Yisrael the knowledge and the tools how to go through Galut Mitzrayim, to the diaspora in Egypt. And this is exactly what Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did years later when he wrote the Torah Shebaal Peh. When he saw that people are starting to forgetting, there are not a lot of people that know the oral Torah, and it's going to vanish, and it's not going, and what's going to be then? So he decided to write the Torah Shebaal Peh, and this is what he did those 17 years. So this connects him to Yaakov Avinu in those 17 years. Also, they connect Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi to Moshe Rabbeinu. From Moshe to Yehuda will come. And what is that? What does it mean? What's the idea? The idea is Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah, and Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi gave us the Torah Shebaal Peh. Of course, Moshe Rabbeinu also got the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah, but he gave us the Torah Shebichtav. Torah Shebaal Peh, it was not written, only the Torah Shebichtav. And then Yehuda HaNasi, he wrote it. And what is another interesting point is that it's written that when Moshe Rabbeinu was learning Torah in the day, it was the written Torah, Torah Shebichtav. When he was learning at night, it was the oral Torah. What is night? Night is the diaspora, the Galut. And this is exactly what Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did. He gave us the power to go through the Galut, and till today we learn the Gemara, the Mishnah, because what Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did. So this is like Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah Shebichtav, or that hold us through the diaspora in Egypt with all the details that he gave to the children and to the family. And Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, he wrote the Torah Shebaal Peh, he made it written, so we can learn it and we'll go through the diaspora going with the Torah with us. And this brings us to a very interesting episode with Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu, he calls his son Joseph, and he is blessing his grandchildren from Joseph. And nevertheless, he also takes one in favor of the other. Instead of taking the older on the right hand, he takes the younger on the right hand. And what is he doing here? it all started because he favored Yosef and gave him this special technicolor coat, whatever it was, and it caused all the problems. And now he's doing the same thing with the same son, giving special blessing to the grandson from Joseph and not to all the others. And then also preferring one on the other, the younger, he puts in front of the older. What's going on here? So let's see what's written. ויחר הדברים האלה. ויגד ליעקב, and they told Yaakov, your son Joseph is coming. ויתחזק וישב על המיטה. And then he's going on, he's asking him to, he's blessing him, and said, ואתה שני בניך, and the two children that you were born here in Egypt, they were going to be like the tribes, Reuben and Shimon. And look what he said, people don't see it. Lihem Ephraim uMenashe. He's already putting Ephraim in front of Menashe. And then we're going on. I'm not going to all the details. Vayar Israel ibn Yosef, and Israel is Yaakov. By the way, we'll see that there is sometimes we call Yaakov, sometimes Israel. And Israel is when he is at a high level, or when he's ordering something, and when he is in charge of something. And Yaakov is when he's lower in the level, or is going through problems, or going through life with all the difficulties. So here we see Israel. So this is something very important. This is a very high level. He sees the children of Joseph, and don't forget, he saw them a minute ago. Says, who are those? What do you mean, who are those? 2 seconds ago, you saw them. Mi ele, by the way, I'm not going to go to this thing also. Mi ele is the letters of Elokim. Elokim is midat adin, is judgment. And he says, Mi ele, and there is a whole discussion that is connected with Ephraim and Menashe that we're not going to go into it now. But the idea, general idea is that Joseph, he holds the idea that first of all, Elokim, midat adin. Then, midat arachamim. Or how we say, Sur mera v'aseh tov. First of all, stop doing bad and then do good. But Yaakov tells him, no, you're mistaken. First of all, now when we have the Torah, that he's teaching them the Torah, you can put first of all, the love to God, midat harachamim, midat chesed, and then judgment. In other words, first of all, do good, and then sur mera, and then go from and stop doing the bad things. Now, the idea is that Ephraim is the good, Ephraim pariti perot, fruits, and Menashe is the one who is the judgment, who is the hard side, the din. And he puts Ephraim in front of Menashe because of this reason, because he tells him, you have to put first of all the fruits, first of all do good, and then we'll go on. And this connects us to what's happening now. It says, who are those? Mi ele, word Elohim. Why do you deal with them with midat hadin? But says, what do you mean? We were born here. It's a problem. Ele banai shenatan Elohim bazeh. Says that this is here. You have to be very worried not to do bad. Anyway, he says, bring them to me. I want to bless them. And then he's kissing them and hugging them, and Vayikach Yosef, and he takes both of them. Et Ephraim biyamino mismol Israel, ואת Menashe bismolo mimin Israel. So what is going now is that Yosef takes the two children, and he takes the right hand, is supposed to be on the oldest, and the left hand on the younger, but he knows he's going in front of Yaakov, so he takes on the right hand, he puts the small kid, which is Ephraim, that is going to be in front of the right hand of the left hand of Yaakov. And on the left hand, he takes Menashe, which is the eldest. And now the left hand, when he comes in front of Yaakov, opposite him, the right hand of Yaakov is going to be on the left hand of Joseph. Okay, but what's happening here? Vayishlach Yisrael et yamino. Israel, Yaakov sends his right hand and he crosses it. Vayashet al rosh Ephraim, and he puts it on the head of Ephraim, which is the younger. And Menashe, he puts the left hand. So, and he blessing them. Says, and this is one of the most important blessing that we all bless our kids on Erev Shabbos. ויברך יוסף ויאמר, האלוקים אשר התהלכו אבותיי לפניו, אברהם יצחק, האלוקים הרואה אותי מכל רע, המלאך הגואל אותי מכל רע, יברך תנא, he will bless those kids, ויקרא בן שני אשר אבותיי אבותיו, ידגו לרוב בקרב הארץ. It will multiply in the land, and it multiply like fish on the land. Vayar Yosef. Now Joseph sees that he's putting the right hand on the left and the left on the right. He's trying to take the hands of his father, because he thinks his father maybe thinks that he brought the oldest in the right hand and the younger in the left hand, and that's why he's crossing his hand. But he organized it in a different way, so his father doesn't have to cross the hand. So his Montes says, well, you say, no, לא כן אבי, זה הבכור, שים ממך, that's the eldest, put your right hand on him. וימאן אביו, but his father, he doesn't agree. He says, ידעתי בני ידעתי, I know exactly what I'm doing. In other words, what I forget you don't even know. So I know exactly what I'm doing. גם הוא ילם, yes, the eldest one is also going to be good, but אחיו הקטון, the small brother, he is going to be much greater. וזרעו יהיה מלא גויים. And by the way, that we see all the time that we're talking about Am Yisrael in the diaspora, זה בני אפרים. הבן יקיר לי הוא אפרים. It's interesting. And let's go a little deeper to this idea. What is this strange blessing that will multiply like fish? וידגו לרוב. Where do fish live? In the water. If you take the fish out of the water, what happens? They die. So what's going on here? What's a strange blessing? But that's exactly the idea. This blessing is that though you take the fish out of the water and he's supposed to die, the blessing is that if you take Am Yisrael out of the diaspora, out of the water of the Torah, and on earth with all the materialism and everything, they are going to survive and to multiply. That's a beautiful blessing. And why is he blessing the sons of Joseph and not all the other sons? And why is he putting Ephraim before Joseph? Before Menashe? Another interesting point. We'll see next week that everybody who has let's say was a minister or had a high rank in Egypt, he got a letter from Pharaoh in his name. For example, Potiphar has 2 pay and a resh from Pharaoh. We'll see next week Shifra v'Puah, how he calling to the maiden Shifra and Puah, you have pay and resh. How is Joseph called an Egyptian man? Tzofnat Pa'aneach, again the pay. And Menashe has got nothing. At Ephraim, he's got a pay and a resh. The idea is that Menashe, he got the Torah from his father. He had, let's say, a different level from Ephraim. He was still, let's say, having the atmosphere of the house of Yaakov through Joseph. But the more they stayed there, they were more, let's say, with the Egyptian, and this is why his name is like an Egyptian name. And this is why he puts Ephraim, because he needs the blessing more than Menashe, because he's more deep into the diaspora of Egypt. And also, and when we see this thing, he's also blessing both of them, and he's not blessing the others because the others were growing with Yaakov Avinu. They were learning Torah from Yaakov Avinu. They didn't need this special blessing. But the sons of Joseph, they were in the palace. They needed the special blessing. That's why nobody is saying anything, because they understand that those 2 sons, Ephraim and Menashe, need this special blessing. And this is why we bless our children. As Yaakov is saying, Becha yevarech Israel. 1 minute. ויברכם ביום ההוא לאמור בך יברך ישראל. He's blessing them. He says, this blessing Am Yisrael is going to bless. ישמך אלוקים כאפרים וכמנשה. וישם את אפרים לפני מנשה. And we understand now. The blessing is that God will give us the power in the diaspora to go against all the bad influence around us. And the more you dip in it, the more you need the blessing. And that's why Ephraim is in front of Menashe. And this also connects us to what he blessed to what is we said in the beginning of the Pasha, Vayechi Yaakov 17 shana, 17 years that he was preaching and giving the tools to the children so they can have the power to go through the diaspora. And this is what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi did in Sipori for 17 years, giving Am Yisrael the power to go with the diaspora and fight the bad influence of the Western world, of all this running after the lust and joys of the materialistic things. And this is the basic of everything. To see and understand what is the power that we have and what is the power of this special blessing that we bless. And this leads us to the blessing that I want to end, to the blessing of the other children. And there is another important thing. He says, Vayikra Yaakov el banav, and he calls them, he says, as who come gather together, and I will tell you what's going to happen in the end of days. And then he's blessing the kids. And Rashi says he wanted to tell that when the end is going to come, but God stopped him from saying it because there is a problem. We're not allowed to calculate when the Geula is going to come. But says the Zohar Kadosh, if the Torah said שביקש יעקב לגלות את הקץ, that he wanted to reveal the end, to tell the end, and the Torah didn't tell that he didn't say it, so he did. So what did he do? We see that he's only calling the brother and he's blessing the tribes. That's what we see. So listen, this is unbelievable. First of all, he says, Easfu titasfu, gather together. Easfu, ve'agida, aguda achat, right? The lulav and the etrog and the arava and the others. Together, all people, all Am Yisrael. Doesn't matter religious, not religious, atheist, Haredi, not Haredi, together. This is aguda achat. And when you gather together, Am Yisrael, and you be like one, like aguda achat, then the Mashiach will come. Then Ziketz Hayamim. Then will come the end. What is this connected to the blessing? And especially when we see that not all the blessings are exactly blessing. And this is also because those blessings are really, again, the tools for us to deal with what's happening around us, to use our talent and do the right thing in the eyes of God. And sometimes he says, but look, for example, Shimon v'Levi, klei chamas mechorotehem, b'tzodam is like this, not a blessing. He says they are have got this jealousy, they are hasted, and they get angry very quickly. I don't want to know about them. What's going on here? But we see, we have Shimon and Levi. Levi is the tribe of the Kohanim and the Leviim. So, and this, I will end with a story. The Rabbi Galinsky Zatzal brings a story of the Saba Mislabodka. Saba Mislabodka one day goes in the market, and he sees this old lady selling apples. And she had this wagon, and the apples were on the wagon, and came this clown, and he was starting playing around, and he threw all the apples on the floor. And this lady was starting gathering, and he is helping the Saba Mislabodka, and she is cursing, wow, 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 what words came out of her mouth, wow. Suddenly somebody came to buy apples, and she changed. Says, hello, can I help you? Yes. Saba said, what? 1 minute, she is on fire, and the second, and cursing, and the second thing is, Puchi Muchi, what happened? She has to sell. This is Parnasa. And by the way, I can take an example. If you at home, sometimes you row with the wife, row with the kids, and suddenly somebody very important comes. What do? Oh, shalom! How are you? And everything like nothing happened. In other words, the point here is very clear. Whatever God gives us, whatever talent, whatever thing we have, we can use it always for the good. There are no midot route. There is shimush rather. We're using the midot in a bad way. So even anger, as we see, we can use for the best if we know what is the trigger. So in other words, what Yaakov is doing is giving us all the ways that the talents, what we have, all the midot, what we have, in order to know how do we deal with them. Because one of the most important things is to know, who am I? What is my talent? What are my abilities? What is my what is my mood? What did I get? And when I know the tools, I can use them for the best. And this all comes together to the tools that are going to connect with the Mishnah Baal Peh, with the Torah Shebaal Peh from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, with the blessing of Ephraim and Menashe, with the blessing of the tribes that will give us the power to bring the Geulah b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.